On today's hiwatt soundbite, we're breaking down some industrial metal, Norwegian style. Well, the inspiration for today's session came from straight out of the archives. You know, there's nothing quite like starting your morning with a little industrial metal from Norway. Oh man, that's Concrete Skin by Insect. You know, my head is rocking just as much today listening back to that as it did 15 years ago when I mixed it. When my good friend and colleague Luc van Acker reached out to me 15 years ago and said, I'm working with this Norwegian band and you're gonna have to clear some time in your schedule for a mix. Well, I mean, I always get excited when Luke calls, but this was a particularly awesome project. I remember hearing the demo of this song for the first time and just getting really excited knowing that just how heavy this thing could be if it was properly mixed and produced. Just an overwhelming, relentless, brutal powerhouse of a track. And one of the things that I have always loved about music from this part of the world is their unbelievable ability to just sort of flip the switch, I call it, where you can go from a really hardcore, kind of brutal sounding verse vocal like we just heard, and they hit to the chorus and it's like they flip a switch and this beautiful melodic chorus hits. And it's just something that I've always been attracted to from music from that part of the world, no question. So for today's session, I've restored this mix from the archives, and there are some classic production tricks going on in here. The vocals were all recorded with Luc at his studio in Belgium, and he is an absolute master. I mean, come on, we're talking about Luc van Acker. When I open up a track that he's had anything to do with, I pay attention. It's like, where's my notebook, right? And the first thing that absolutely strikes me big time about this track is just how powerful that vocal is and the way it's delivered. Those guys doubled this vocal to a T. Now, some of you I know can relate to this because of experience, but there is a magic that comes from doubling a vocal. As soon as you double a vocal and you put that vocal double up on almost the same level as the lead, there is a certain sound that comes from that is very unique. In other words, you know, in the midst of doing that, sometimes I've done this in the past where I record a double vocal and then I'm like, man, that sounds so good, let's record a triple. And you go ahead and record another lead vocal line. Well, if you add and sum all of those three vocals together, it's like they become one again. This is just one of those crazy things about vocal doubling. The only way to achieve the effect is to double the vocal once and once only. And one of the keys to having it come across properly is having both of those vocals basically the same level. You know, in sessions over the years, I've often had that lead vocal kind of, you know, prominent a little bit in that mix and the double kind of buried a bit. This is a particularly well-sung doubled vocal. Luc and Peter worked very hard to get this right. Check this thing out soloed.
Always someone on my back that tried to turn me into something I am not. You had all of the shit and lies that I am told. Just for wanting more, gotta get away.
That is an unbelievable sound. If I take the double off and just play one of those vocals,
always someone on my back that tried to...
Not as powerful as with that double, clearly.
Always someone on my back that tried to turn me into something I am not.
This is absolutely a killer example of vocal doubling done right. These guys nailed this thing. Peter sang both of those vocals so closely together, and They're both in the mix. They're feeding the bus that I've got set up for that vocal. They're feeding it at exactly the same level. And the only processing that I'm adding to these two vocal tracks is some dynamics, some compression, and I've got a vocal slap, a slap echo on it. Check it.
Always someone on my back that tried to turn me into something I am not. You had all of the shit and lies that I am told.
Very simple slapback echo. That is a classic effect on a track like this. You know, if you've got a singer who's just guttural and he's going for it and he's got that power and that kind of ripping voice that's coming out, nothing like a slap echo to add even more of that intensity. You know, there's just something so cool about it. It never gets in the way because there's no repeats on it. It's just one tight, super, slapback echo. Very, very effective. I love it. And that reference I made to music from this part of the world, check out what these guys got up to in the chorus.
No one keeps it from running away from this all and the lies and the shit that applies. Back up, can I please get some rest? Seems like everything I do is wrong. Give me a chance to make it right. To make it right.
I love all those harmonies and everything going on. It's just like this huge kind of epic chorus. And then the guys go right back to this hardcore grind. Check it.
To make it right. To make it
When I heard the rough mix of the song for the first time, of course, it didn't sound quite like this, but I heard so much potential in it. I knew that, those vocals were recorded well. I loved the guitar tone, even in the demo that they had. So let's check out this rough mix just for a reference point. Check it. And the final mix. Just like a lot of industrial metal of that era, there was a lot of programming in this track. So I simply reached out to the band and asked them to send me all of the MIDI parts that they had recorded and used to create this track. So when I got the source MIDI files for this, I was really easily able to recreate a bass guitar part and then double it with my virus. Here's the guitar part solo. And with the virus. There's something to be said about synth bass running alongside some really well-played guitars. Check out how heavy these all sound together. I've always found it so effective and killer to have a bass guitar playing exactly the same thing as the rhythm guitars. I love it when they're locked together and that huge rhythm sound is just big and huge in the speakers and it just continues all the way down to the floor. I love that.
Back off, can I please get some rest? It seems like everything I do is wrong. Give me a chance to make it right. To make it
What's up, Peter? Man, my voice hurts just hearing that. I can't open up a single one of these multi-tracks from the archives without seeing all of this Revox plastered all over the place. I've talked about this in past sessions. I've got this amazing old tape echo machine that died a number of years ago. Revisiting some of these multi-tracks and opening up tracks from the archives has made me realize just how much that thing was a classic piece of gear in my world and how much I miss it. Later on this winter, when the snow really settles in, probably January or February, I'm gonna go dig out the Revox. I'm gonna set it up on the back table. There's a whole rebuild kit that I can pick up for it. I'm talking right from the ground up. Brakes, motors, everything. There's no question that it's a little beyond the scope of what I normally do in electronics and with a soldering iron. I've been assured that I'm gonna be able to make it through this thing, and maybe with a little help from the community, we'll be able to pull it off. Well, thank you very much for sitting in on today's session. I hope this inspires you. This track and mix might be from the archives and 15 years old, but I put this thing up in my studio today and I find it hugely inspiring. A blast from the past and some really good Friday morning breakfast material.